You know, today it's hard to even go a few days and not read some sensational headline about a celebrity or a supermodel just being ridiculously retouched, just like crazy stuff, where they've been made too thin and their skin's too smooth and they look plastic and it looks unreal. And we read this every single day. We have a name for it in the industry. We call it being retouched to death, where you've just taken it so far it doesn't look realistic anymore. And so that's kind of an interesting thought. And I thought I would talk about, why do we retouch people? Is there a reason we would actually want to retouch somebody? Is it a good thing? And I think everybody in here would probably, if you thought about it, would think, no, that stuff that they're doing, that's not a good thing. So is there ever a time when retouching is a good thing? Well, to tell you that story, I have to tell you a different story. So a number of years ago, my wife surprised me with a trip to Italy. We took the whole family. And she took me there because I'm a photographer, and she knows that it would be just a great experience to take pictures in such a beautiful place. Well, we're there for a week, and I'm shooting and shooting pictures every single day. And the last day of the trip, I said, honey, I want to go to this place in Tuscany, and we're all going to go. And the kids are like, nope, that's okay, we're going to stay here. And I'm like, you're going to miss it. It's going to be amazing. We're like, I know, you go. Because they were just basically tired of it. So I drove out and I got in my little rental car and I'm driving through the Italian countryside. It's Tuscany, it's beautiful. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I come around a corner and I see this beautiful little villa on the side of a hill. And I go, they're missing it. I pull my car off the side of the road, I set up my tripod, and I take a couple of shots. And it's just so beautiful. And it's so beautiful that I did something I normally don't do. I actually stopped and I just wanted to take it in. I just kind of like, this is unbelievable. So I stood there for like 15 minutes going, I can't believe places like this still exist on Earth. And I'm just like, this is beautiful. I mean, the air was crisp and the scene was beautiful and the whole thing was just amazing. So I get back to the hotel room and my wife goes, well, how was it? And I go, oh, you missed like you can't believe. Let me show you this one shot. And I open up my laptop and I go, what's this? I mean, the villa was there, but all of a sudden I looked and you know what else was there? The thing that jumped out at me more than anything, I didn't even see the villa because now all I see are telephone poles and power lines throughout the whole thing. And I'm like, where did these come from? And you know what it is? It's a really good thing. It's something in our minds that is a wonderful thing, that when we're looking at something beautiful, all the distracting things and all the bad things, like telephone poles and power lines, just fade away. They fade into the background. And if you'd asked me, I'll give you $500 if you can name me the top 5 distracting things in there, I could have named 50 things, and none of them would have been telephone poles and power lines all over the thing. But when I opened that image in Photoshop, that's all I saw. So I had to tell my wife, give me a few minutes. It actually took an hour to remove, in Photoshop, all the lines and the power lines. Why did I remove those? Because that's not what it looked like. I was standing there for 15 minutes. I never saw a single power line. I never saw any of it. And I'm looking, it's just a beautiful scene. But this is a great thing that the human mind does this. But I wanted to test it out. So a lot of times in the summer, we'll go to Maine on vacation. And so there's a little church that I see every time we're there. It's just beautiful. And it's actually, Taylor Swift filmed one of the parts of her video on the front of the church. So I took this picture, because we see it all the time. It's right there in the town. Everybody sees it. And it's just, you can see it's a gorgeous little country church. So I took the picture and I showed it to a bunch of people and I said, so does this look right? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I go, well, what's missing? And they go, well, I don't know. I go, something's missing. I took something out of this picture. And they're like, did you remove an awning? I mean, like, what is it that you took out? Nobody could tell what it was that I had removed from the picture. They've all seen the church dozens of times. But luckily, that was at play. They didn't see that. And they're going like, that's in the picture? Did you put that there? That's really there? It's really there. But luckily, we don't see it. Here's the thing. People are the exact same way. So I'm shooting a wedding. All anybody could talk about all day is how beautiful the bride was. And she was. She looked phenomenal. Now, you got to realize, I'm there with another professional photographer. We're with the bride from 8 a.m. until, sadly, 10 p.m., longest day of my life. We're taking thousands of shots of the bride. I took, I think, 2,200 shots. My second shooter took 1,800 shots, almost 4,000 shots, mostly of the bride. You know why we take pictures mostly of the bride? Because nobody cares about the groom. Anyway, so we have all these shots. And so at the end of the day, we're exhausted and we go home. And so I open up Photoshop because I thought I want to look at one of the formal portraits I did of the bride. I open up the picture, I take a look at it, and I'm like, oh, what's that? On her bare shoulder, right, is this grouping, a cluster of acne. It looked like someone had thrown a pimple grenade and it hit right here. It was really nasty. It was all, and I'm like, where did that come from? It was the first thing, like I opened the picture and I was just like, oh. So I thought, well, maybe everybody saw it and I didn't notice it. So I called my buddy who was the second shooter and I said, did you notice anything funky about the bride? No, she was beautiful. I know. Did you notice anything? No. Anything that wasn't just perfect? No. Go open up one of the photos. So I hear him opening you can hear his like fingers on the keyboard. And then I kid you, just exactly heard this. Oh, dude, what's that? I'm like, I know. Where did it come from? People are the exact same way. Here's why. So when we're talking to the bride, when we're looking at the bride, when we see the bride, right? When we see all of these things, she is, and we are, whoever you're talking to, is a 3D object, right? They're 3D. It's not fair what happens when our image goes from this 3D thing where you're moving, you're breathing, you have a smell, hopefully a good smell. You have a smell, you have all this motion to you, and you have emotion, and you have laughter, and you have your voice. When you take that three-dimensional thing and you slap it into something flat that's trapped behind a piece of glass on your computer or on the pages of a magazine, all of a sudden, you know what goes away? The movement, your laughter, your personality, your voice. You know what's left? All of a sudden, the things that you would never notice when you're standing right in front of somebody, that stuff's gone. It's not just that now your flaws show in a flat picture, they're actually amplified. Stuff that you would never notice. This is why sometimes you'll have people go, oh, I hate the way I look in pictures. Oh, I can't stand the way I look at pictures. Do you know why? Because they're used to seeing themselves in the mirror every day. When they see themselves in the mirror when you're getting dressed, you're moving, you're breathing, you're three-dimensional. When they take a picture of themselves and they look at it and they go, that's not what I look like. You know why? Because that's not what they look like. All of a sudden, it's a different view of them. It's not the right view of them. And so, oh, by the way, if you run into somebody that says, I love pictures of me, they have an entirely different problem. Anyway, so here's the thing. We have a job, and it's not to make people look ridiculously thin, and it's not all that other stuff. It's not to make people's skin look plastic. Portrait retouching is done for a reason. And what our real job is not to make people look fake. And it's not to remove their imperfections. You know what the job of a real retoucher is? It's to make people look as good in a photograph where every flaw is amplified as they did when you were standing in front of them. I want to give you an example of the typical stuff that we would do in this kind of situation. Take a look at our subject here. She has a little mole. If you look right below her nose, there's a little mole. Now, of course, in Photoshop, we can remove stuff like that in a second, right? We have a tool that actually does it for us. It's called the healing brush, right? Take a look, it's right here. And how the healing brush works is this. We'll zoom in a little tighter there. See how obvious this thing is? So, you take the healing brush, and then you just find a clean part of skin nearby, and then you just move over the mole, and you click one time, and it's gone. You know what happens when you remove her mole? It's not her anymore. And her friends know it, and her family knows it. They're like, where's her mole? To make it realistic, to make it look like she really looks in real life, we use a feature called fade. So fade is, think about this, undo on a slider. If I drag the slider all the way to the left, I've undone it. It's undo. The mole's back. If I drag it all the way to the right, there's no mole. Our job is to make the mole look like it does in real life to where it doesn't jump out like it does in the photo. So we just reduce it a little bit. By reducing a little bit, you see the mole, it looks like her, but it looks like her when you're actually talking to her. Now, same thing goes, take a look at this guy, nice looking guy, and he looks great from this far away. But if you zoom in on him, like people will look at him in a picture, all of a sudden you see all kinds of little bumps and stuff. But if you zoom in close, and closer than you'd ever get to somebody, you see he has what everybody has. little red veins in the eyes. When was the last time you thought about, hey, I saw the veins in his eyes? Never. We don't ever even think about it until you see a photo and all of a sudden there's veins. And while you're there, retouching so close, you'd never be this close to him, but he's got a little, like a pimply kind of embarrassing thing. Just move it. Because by the time I retouch his photo, that's gone anyway. So here's the thing. Also, we retouch the eyes. They get kind of, you know the whites of your eyes in a photograph? They turn into the grays of your eyes. So the typical thing that we would do, here's the picture straight out of the camera, is here's a retouch. I retouched it. And if you just looked at that and thought, well, that doesn't look a whole lot different. Exactly. Here's what I did. I brightened the face, I reduced the moles a little bit, and I brightened the whites of her eyes. The typical stuff that you would really do with real portrait retouching, right? So that's what she really looks like right there. So what is this? What this is when it's overdone. When you've made her thinner than she is, you've removed every single stray hair, you removed every blemish, you removed the mole, you've desaturated her skin. You want to see what I did to it? This is what we did. And this is a short list compared to what they would do on a magazine. And so even if you looked at this and you thought, well, I mean, I think the one on the right looks okay, it doesn't look that bad, that may be true, but it's not how she looks. That's not the real her, and that's not our job. And here's what the problem is. Anytime you take something good and you take it too far, it usually turns bad, right? So, like for example, people will have a glass of wine with dinner. Adult people will have a glass of wine with dinner, and that's fine. If you have a glass of wine with dinner, it's very, very common. If you have a bottle or two, we need to have a talk. And so the thing is, anything taken too far really quickly turns bad. And so that's where we are, and that's what we have to realize. And you have to realize that this retouching that you just saw, this over-the-top stuff in the last image, I don't know what the real name of it is. I call it fantasy retouching. Here's why. Do me a favor, everybody here, close your eyes for a second. You have to really legitimately close your eyes. Close your eyes. Picture your favorite celebrity, okay? Whoever your favorite celebrity is. Picture them in your mind really clearly. All right, you see those wrinkles on their face? How about the bags under their eyes? You see the lines on their neck? No? Of course you don't. You can open your eyes. You don't see any of that stuff because that's not how we picture supermodels and celebrities. We picture them perfect. We don't see our favorite celebrity with any of that stuff. So when a celebrity magazine or a celebrity blog or one of these things retouches somebody, they don't retouch to what they really look like, they retouch to the fantasy. They retouch to the picture in your mind. That's why I call it fantasy retouching. But you know what? Real people look real. Supermodels in real life look real. One of the most famous supermodels ever was Christie Brinkley. And Christie Brinkley had a great thing. She said, I think that when women see me on the cover of a magazine, they see that and they go, wow, she doesn't have bags under her eyes, she doesn't have a single pimple, she must wake up like that. But Christie Brinkley said something great. She said, what you're seeing when you see me on the cover of a magazine, that's 2 hours of hair, that's 2 hours of makeup, and then retouching. And her famous quote, even I don't wake up looking like Cindy Crawford. And that's because that's how many things were done to make. Now, so what is that? It's entertainment. That's not real life. This is someone being made to look perfect for entertainment purposes, not for reality purposes, not for news purposes. You're making them look like that fantasy. It's more like a comic book. You see Incredible Hulk, or you see Superman, or you see Wonder Woman on the cover of a magazine. You don't think, yep, that's how people look. You go, oh, those are just caricatures. That's exactly the way those things are. And all retouching isn't bad. I shoot automobiles, and a lot of times I have to do a lot of retouching to make the automobile look as good as it did when it drove in the studio. All retouching isn't bad. Bad retouching is very bad. Here's what I want out of this, and here's why I did this talk today. I just want us to see what that crazy retouching, what this unrealistic retouching, I want people to see it for what it is. And what I really want is, I have a 10-year-old daughter. When she goes to the newsstand and she looks at the Hulk and she looks at Wonder Woman, it doesn't affect her life in any way. She doesn't feel anything. She feels nothing. I want her to look at the cover of a fashion magazine and feel the same nothing. I want her to look at it and know that what I just saw on that cover of a magazine is not real. It's just for fun. It's just for entertainment. That's what those magazines are. That's not real people. It started with the real human form, but that's not what it is. It was just done for entertainment. That's not how any of those people look. And you know what? If we can do that, if we can teach our daughters, our families, and our friends that what they're seeing on the cover of those magazines is just entertainment, it's not real, and they look at it and they feel that, we'll have done something worth doing. Thank you.